Seattle is the birthplace of grunge music, which exploded in popularity during the 1990s, establishing the city as a cultural icon. Here, one can feel the pulse of extraordinary creativity, seen in the rise of influential companies like Starbucks, Amazon, and Microsoft. The cityscape is enhanced with ambitious landmarks, like the lush Amazon spheres that introduce greenery into the heart of the bustling city, and the iconic Space Needle, which stands tall as a symbol of Seattle and one of Washington's most recognizable structures, reaching into the skyline. However, not far from these impressive skyscrapers, thousands of homeless individuals struggle to find shelter, often in makeshift tent communities. Just about 3 kilometers from the Space Needle lies the Chinatown International District, a focal point for Seattle's homeless population, where the close proximity starkly reveals the vast divide between wealth and poverty. So, how did it come to this? Why is homelessness growing so rapidly in Seattle?
We were trying for a while, and then when they wouldn't put the dumpsters in, the trash has got to go somewhere.
Where do these individuals live, and what strategies are in place by the government to address this crisis? Data from the 2024 point-in-time count reveals that on any given night, more than 16,385 people are experiencing homelessness in King County. This is far from a point of pride, as it marks the highest number ever reported by federal agencies for Seattle and King County. This figure represents a 23% increase over the same metric in 2022. There has been a sharp rise in the number of people without permanent housing, climbing from 7,685 individuals in 2022 to 9,810 this year, signaling a concerning 27.7% increase in homelessness in Seattle. Additionally, the report sheds light on how homelessness disproportionately impacts communities of color, with a particularly severe effect on Black residents. Although Black people make up only 7% of King County's population, according to the 2020 U.S. Census, they constitute 19% of the homeless population in the area. This year's data also indicates that individuals identifying as American Indian, Alaska Native, or Indigenous make up 7% of those experiencing homelessness in King County, despite representing just 1% of the general population in the region. Residents of Seattle are all too familiar with the high cost of living in their city. From food and housing to transportation, nearly every necessity is notably more expensive than the national average. According to a 2023 study by the Council for Community and Economic Research, Seattle ranks as the 9th most expensive city out of 269 cities analyzed across the United States for the third quarter of the year. In fact, Seattle's overall cost of living is slightly higher than cities like New York, San Diego, Queens, Washington, D.C., and Oakland. Imagine the amount of money required just to maintain a decent standard of living here. The largest financial burden in Seattle is housing, with housing costs over twice the national average. Rental prices alone have soared by 57% in just 6 years. A recent study shows that 47% of households renting in the greater Seattle area are considered housing cost burdened, meaning they spend more than 30% of their income on rent alone. One major factor driving up housing prices has been Amazon's decision to establish its headquarters in downtown Seattle, which attracted a surge of high-wage tech workers. Between 2010 and 2017, average rent in Seattle increased by 41.7%, far outpacing the national average increase of 17.6%. These escalating costs are undeniably one of the main contributors to Seattle's housing crisis. The irony is palpable. Amid the success of engineers at companies like Microsoft and Amazon, the average person is left struggling to afford the basics. This crisis is further intensified by high rates of substance abuse, which often entrap homeless individuals in cycles of addiction that take a severe toll on their mental health. Another significant factor is medical debt. A 2020 study conducted in Seattle found that medical debt can add an average of 2 years to the time a person remains homeless. Moreover, research published by Public Health in 2020 highlights that legal debt also contributes to the rise in homelessness. This is partly due to the criminalization of behaviors associated with homelessness, such as sleeping in public spaces, which only worsens the cycle. However, a recent U.S. Supreme Court decision has ruled that homeless individuals are prohibited from sleeping in public spaces or setting up tents in American cities unless they have absolutely no other shelter options. This ruling essentially means that unless adequate shelter is available to everyone in need, cities cannot legally prevent people from resting or finding refuge in public areas. Homelessness has long been a pressing issue in Seattle, with individuals experiencing homelessness scattered throughout various parts of the city. Key locations include areas like Pioneer Square and downtown, specifically around the historic post clocks. Originally just a street feature for telling time, these post clocks and the areas surrounding them have since become gathering points for Seattle's homeless population. These areas are often considered strategic by those experiencing homelessness due to their proximity to essential services, public transit, and food distribution sites. By 2024, reports indicate that many homeless encampments have been established in parks, beneath bridges, near canals, and along major roadways. Areas with particularly high concentrations of homeless individuals include downtown Seattle, the Chinatown International District, Capitol Hill, and Woodland Park. These locations provide accessible shelter or easy access to support services, making them appealing for individuals seeking temporary refuge. Beyond the Chinatown International District, sites like Interstate 5 and South Dearborn Street have become common spots for encampments, though they are frequently targeted for sweeps by city authorities due to safety concerns. These encampments are often associated with violent crime and environmental hazards, prompting ongoing petitions from local businesses and residents who advocate for the relocation of these camps to mitigate safety risks. A 2023 study by Azad at the University of Washington reveals that homeless individuals in Seattle endure prolonged exposure to extreme weather, including both high and dangerously low temperatures. In addition, urban expansion and an increase in regional wildfires have led to declining air quality, which further impacts the health and well-being of the homeless population. The dual challenges of climate change and a lack of adequate emergency shelters have significantly worsened the situation for these individuals. The majority of people in Seattle tend to see homelessness as a social nuisance or even associate it with criminal activity. However, most homeless individuals are not on the streets by choice. They are often there due to severe economic hardships, the inability to afford rent, or struggles with mental health issues. This stigma makes it difficult for homeless individuals to be seen and treated with compassion, even when they are actively seeking help. Many people hesitate to approach them due to pervasive stereotypes, such as assumptions that they are lazy or troubled. As a result, homeless individuals often feel isolated, which further complicates their ability to access the resources they need. Discrimination is also common in public services, where they are often treated unfairly in public spaces or even turned away from shelters. Another issue is the city's practice of sweeps, or the forced removal of homeless encampments, often carried out without providing a stable alternative for those affected. These sweeps disrupt lives, leaving individuals even more unstable and often resulting in the loss of essential belongings, such as identification documents or medications. One of the most visible impacts of Seattle's homelessness crisis is on the tourism sector. Visitors, especially in the downtown area, frequently encounter homeless individuals, which can raise concerns about safety, comfort, and cleanliness. This perception of potential crime or discomfort may deter tourists from visiting certain parts of Queen City. Some businesses have reported a decrease in foot traffic and a decline in overall customer experience due to these conditions. Economically, homelessness creates both direct and indirect financial burdens on the city. One of the most apparent costs is the city's spending on homelessness services, which has risen substantially in recent years. Socially and culturally, the crisis has reshaped public perceptions, policies, and interactions among Seattle's diverse communities. This dynamic has led to increased tension between social groups, those advocating for homeless rights and support, and others concerned with the implications on safety and public order. Additionally, homelessness is often stigmatized, with many people viewing homeless individuals as either criminals or mentally unstable. This stigma affects behavior, prompting residents to avoid certain areas or limit interactions with homeless individuals. Surviving on the streets or in unstable environments also puts individuals at a much higher risk for chronic health issues, such as cardiovascular disease, respiratory conditions, and untreated infections. Many homeless individuals suffer from health problems that are typically seen in older populations, including dementia and Alzheimer's disease. Mental health challenges are equally significant. A large portion of Seattle's homeless population struggles with behavioral health issues, such as substance abuse or mental health conditions like depression and anxiety. These mental health challenges make daily life even more difficult for homeless individuals, often trapping them in a cycle of instability that is hard to break without support. In response to the homelessness crisis, advocacy organizations in Seattle, such as the Resident Action Project, emphasize the importance of sharing personal stories and experiences of homelessness. This approach aims to foster empathy within the community and drive policy changes toward fairer housing solutions. In 2022, Mayor Bruce Harrell introduced the One Seattle Homelessness Action Plan. This initiative prioritizes addressing homelessness through the creation of more housing and improved data collection. As part of the plan, the city provided $118 million to the King County Regional Homelessness Authority, which enabled the development of 2,000 housing units by year's end. By 2024, Seattle allocated over $26.6 million to tackle homelessness, with a large portion dedicated to programs that focus on dismantling encampments and providing emergency shelters. This financial commitment underscores Seattle's effort to both address immediate needs and create longer-term solutions for stable housing, aiming for a comprehensive approach to reduce homelessness in the city.